The Galactic Council had seen many species rise and fall across the stars, but none perplexed them quite like humanity. When the humans first arrived at Station Kepler 7, the assembled aliens regarded them with a mixture of curiosity and dismissal. They were soft, these humans. No natural armor, no venomous fangs, no psychic abilities. Just pink flesh and fragile bones. Hannah was 7 years old when her family became the first human colonists on Refuge 4, a peaceful trading world where dozens of species coexisted under Council protection. Her father worked as a xenobiologist, studying the planet's native wildlife while her mother served as a human ambassador. Hannah, with her wild brown curls and gap-toothed smile, became something of a curiosity herself. The Krell particularly enjoyed mocking her. They were a warrior species, towering reptilians with scales like battle armor and strength that could crush stone. Their children trained in combat from the moment they could walk. When 12-year-old Evan arrived on Refuge 4 with his guardian, the Krell found two perfect targets for their superiority complex. "Look at the weak ones," hissed Draxus, the Krell commander's son, as Hannah and Evan walked through the market district. No claws, no armor. How did such a pathetic species even survive to reach the stars? Hannah ignored him, as her mother had taught her. Evan, darker-skinned and quiet, kept his eyes forward. But the Krell didn't appreciate being ignored. "I'm talking to you, helpless things." Draxus moved to block their path, his three friends forming a semicircle behind him. Each stood nearly 7 feet tall, their scales gleaming in the artificial sunlight. What the Krell didn't understand, what none of the aliens truly grasped, was that humanity's strength had never been physical. It was something far more dangerous. "Please move," Hannah said politely. "We don't want trouble." Draxus laughed, a sound like grinding rocks. "Trouble? What could you possibly do? Call for your parents?" He reached out with one clawed hand toward Hannah's shoulder. He never made contact. The creature that emerged from the nearby alley was small by galactic standards, barely 3 feet long, with a stocky body covered in coarse black and white fur. The Krell had never seen a honey badger before. It wasn't native to Refuge 4. Hannah's father had brought it from Earth as part of his research into Earth fauna's adaptability to alien environments. The animal had escaped that morning. Pepper. Hannah's face lit up with recognition. "There you are." The honey badger, because that's what it was, though the name meant nothing to the Krell, stopped and looked at Hannah. Something passed between child and creature, something the aliens would later struggle to explain in their reports. Not telepathy, not magic, simply understanding. Evan saw it too. He'd grown up in rural Montana, where humans still remembered what it meant to live alongside nature, red in tooth and claw. "Hannah," he said quietly, "maybe we should—" "They won't let us leave," Hannah interrupted, her voice still calm. She looked at Draxus. "Last chance, move." The Krell laughed harder. "Or what? Your little pet will—" "Pepper," Hannah said, and her voice carried a tone that humans had used for millennia when commanding their animal companions. "Get them." What happened next would become legend on Refuge 4. The honey badger moved with terrifying speed. It hit the nearest Krell at knee level, teeth and claws finding the weak points in scales that had evolved to deflect predator attacks. But not the right kind of predators. Draxus screamed as Pepper climbed his body, seeking vulnerable points with the instinctive genius of Earth's most fearless predator. The other Krell tried to help, but Evan had already pulled Hannah back. "Don't watch," he said, though he couldn't look away himself. This was nature, and nature was brutal. Pepper didn't kill. Hannah's voice cut through the chaos with a sharp, "Pepper, enough." But the damage was done. 4 Krell warriors, bred and trained for combat, lay groaning on the ground. The honey. Badger sat between Hannah and them, blood on its muzzle, utterly unbothered by the size difference between itself and its opponents. Security drones arrived within minutes. Hannah's parents came running. The Krell commander arrived in full battle armor, ready for war, and then he saw his son, scales torn, pride shattered, defeated by a creature that weighed perhaps 30 pounds. The investigation took hours. Testimonies were recorded, video footage was reviewed, and slowly, carefully, the Galactic Council began to understand something they should have learned when humanity first reached the stars. Humans weren't apex predators. They were something far more terrifying. They were the species that had taken apex predators and made them family. Wolves became dogs. Wild cats became mousers and companions. Hawks hunted at their command. And honey badgers, creatures that fought lions and raided beehives with impunity, could be raised by humans from infancy, forming bonds that made them extensions of human will. Your child weaponized an animal, the council representative said to Hannah's mother during the hearing. No, her mother replied calmly. My child recalled her pet. That it defended her when threatened is simply nature. The Krell demanded justice. They wanted the animal destroyed, the family expelled. But the council had to consider, if this was just one child with one animal, what did humanity as a whole represent? A species that had climbed from prey to planetary dominance not through individual strength but through cooperation, tool use, and the unprecedented ability to form partnerships with other species? The ruling came down 3 days later. No punishment. The Krell had initiated the confrontation. Hannah had attempted to avoid conflict. What happened after was simply the consequence of threatening a human child. Draxus never bothered Hannah or Evan again. Pepper became something of a celebrity, though Hannah's father installed much better containment protocols. And throughout the galaxy, species that had dismissed humanity as weak began to reconsider. Because they'd seen what humans could do with friendship and loyalty as weapons. They'd seen a 7-year-old girl command a creature designed by evolution to fear nothing, and that creature had obeyed. The galaxy had thought humans were helpless. They were wrong. Humans weren't strong because they could fight. They were strong because they'd never had to fight alone. They'd brought their friends, their companions, their partners from Earth. And those partnerships, forged over thousands of years of evolution side by side, made them something the galaxy had never encountered. Not conquerors, not warriors, but survivors. Always survivors. And that, the Krell learned too late, was far more dangerous.